My name is HM3 Moulton, and today we're going to be bringing to you episode 2 of our Meritorious Advancement Program series. Today I had the honor of sitting down with HM1 Moore, who, during the spring season of 2020 Meritorious Advancement, was the only second class to be mapped at the command. I myself was mapped in the most recent fall 2020 map cycle. Both of us have a deep understanding of the amount of hard work that it takes when trying to make yourself competitive for map. However, we also know that the program might be new to some of you, and you might not know where to start, and you also might not know much about it. But that's the goal of this series, and also the goal of this conversation is to hopefully set you up for success. Also, if you haven't done it, be sure to listen to the previous episode where I went through the basics and the structure of the Meritorious Advancement Program. But without further ado, let's get into the interview.
Hey, HM3, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to delve deeper into this program. I wish I had this knowledge or given to me as a junior sailor because, I know I really wanted to utilize this program and I wanted to submit it, but I didn't really know what the basics were or even how the program worked. So thank you for this time.
So now that we've pretty much gone over a very brief overview of the Meritorious Advancement Program and some of the things that you need to be eligible for them, we kind of want to go over some things as far as more open-ended questions, things that myself and HM1 Moore have been asked in regards to the MAP program. So one of the things that I always get asked is, how did you pick up? How did you make yourself competitive? And I think the answer to that is it's really not anything extravagant or extraordinary. It's really just being willing to put in the work that others are not willing to do. Staying up all night, working on nights, but then staying up during the day to volunteer or go to school or make yourself visible to the command. What about yourself, HM1?
Exactly. HM3, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. In order to achieve rewards, there has to be sacrifice. And there's a reason why every time we're on the map boards or map boards get brought up or any eval or anything like that gets brought up, they talk about sustained superior performance. Like here at Walter Reed or NMRTC Bethesda, it's not just 365 days. It's 2 years worth of work and hard work and dedication that you had to put in maintaining that sustained superior performance. But my tidbit of information on this and my little 2 cents is, if you enjoy what you do and you love what you do, these 2 years or this year, it's going to fly by, and then you're going to be reaping the benefits of all your work.
And then what would you say to sailors that are coming to you, and I've heard it on my ward, I'm just going to rely on MAP, I'm not going to worry about the exam, I'm obviously not going to pick up off the exam, or there's very little hope. What would you say to somebody with that mindset?
I would say keep the hope, keep the faith. Not until you exhaust all your options should you give up faith. And even after then, you keep pushing. To rely on MAP it's never a shoo-in. You could be the sailor of the year, sailor of the quarter, and still not get promoted. And that goes into a whole nother conversation. What I would tell these sailors is you worry about making yourself as competitive as possible. You review that grading sheet and you ask your leadership the questions. The other thing is, don't put your leadership in a bind to say, hey, here's my map package, because they could have already been making you a map package, or it's one of those taboo things in the Navy still that not a lot of people talk about, or a lot of the older generation of sailors think that shouldn't even be a thing, or the sailors shouldn't even know about it. You kind of know your surroundings and everything like that if you're qualified to map, if you have a really running chance of or an actual chance of getting mapped. So to those sailors that want to submit their map package and want to just rely on the map package, it's a tool, but it's not the only tool. Remember, there is a STAR program out there. There are A2Ps out there. There's a Navy-wide advancement exam out there. There are other ways to get promoted other than just getting mapped. MAP is the best, in my opinion, because, you get paid immediately. You kind of can't beat that. But it's highly competitive. Here at Walter Reed, we mentioned it earlier, there are, let's just say there's 100 second classes. Only one of them is getting promoted. If you think you're in the top 1%, hey, be my guest. But really sit back and evaluate yourself if you are one of those top performers.
I think it's also important too that if you just forget about the exam, you don't study for the exam, and you do poorly on the exam, you're not going to be as competitive for MAP, because it depends on the leadership, but a lot of them, from what I've heard, they look at your scores, because the point of MAP is they want to promote the sailors that are already performing as a third class. So maybe you scored really high on the exam, but just because of quotas, or maybe you haven't met the time and rate, you don't have the points to push you over the edge. you didn't pick up. But really, we need you in that billet, and that's the point of MAP, is you're already operating as a third class, so we're going to give you the promotion now. And I think that's also the big thing that was always told to me, was it's one, it's not guaranteed, and two, you shouldn't ask for it, because the point of MAP is you need to prove yourself and to your leadership that you can perform as a third class. You don't want to come to them and you don't want to be doing things for the wrong reasons, and they can usually tell if you're doing things for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. Excellent point on the exam as well. Just last little bit, you're not going to get mapped if you Christmas tree the exam. The exam proves that you have a technical expertise and professional knowledge of your job scope. Why would your leadership want to put you in the next possible rank of being in charge of people if you don't even know your job? So that's another thing, you really want to take the exam seriously. And that ties into other things that sailors might not want to do. I might just chill on this PRT because, I don't think the PRT is that big of a deal. The Navy doesn't take fitness seriously, whatever. I've sat on eval boards where I've seen people get bumped to the left or the right because of their exam profile data sheet and their prims. So those little X factors is the reason why it's a requirement in the package. They mean something. Don't just overlook it. Don't just say, I'm going to Christmas tree, or I'm just going to get a good or whatever. The Navy wants to promote its best performing sailors. Remember that.
And then what would you say, and I've heard it now that I've picked up, sailors that come to you and say, hey, HM3, HM1, how did you pick up? I'm scared. I want to maybe focus on starting a family or going to school, but at the same time, I also want to pick up in the meantime, but I feel like if I get rid of this collateral or this extra job duty or whatever it may be, I might not be as competitive and I might not pick up, but I am feeling really stressed and I'm feeling really burnt out. What would you say to someone that comes to you like that?
So I've had a couple of sailors come to me like that. I was actually in that predicament as well. You guys got to remember, this is, I know this is about MAP and everything, but at the end of the day, you got to take care of you first. So, for example, my first name's Josh. If Josh isn't good, HM1 more is not going to be effective, right? And same thing with James. If James isn't good, HM3 Molten is not going to be effective. So you got to take care of your foundation first. If you are feeling burnt out, make sure you're reevaluating your work-life balance. It's okay to take a slight break, but remember, if your end goal is getting promoted, you got to find a way to make up for that break and somehow. So if that's dropping a collateral to pick up something a little bit easier, such as college, extra volunteer hours, something you actually enjoy, then do that. But make sure you're supplementing your relaxation or your hard work with something that's relaxing but still beneficial to the command and the Navy as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, too, it's important, it kind of goes back to the same thing, that MAP isn't guaranteed. So you could do, and I've seen it happen, you could do all these things, you could be squared away doing all these extra things, and maybe because of a technicality or whatever the case may be that's out of your control, you don't pick up. So I would always prioritize and think in your head, what do I really want? What is my end goal? If it's to start a family, then put that as your primary and revolve everything around that. Still try to be as competitive as possible, but you never want to be in a situation where you're regretting or being upset at maybe the Navy because, I'm mad at the Navy, I didn't pick up and I could have been starting a family. Well, you could have. I would focus on what's important to you, and then usually the rest will fall in place. Kind of like what you said, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Exactly.
And I think the other thing, too, that's important, and we'll get into this later on as we break down the grading sheet, but it's not always about how much you're doing, but the quality of what you're doing. Just because you're involved in all these things doesn't mean that you stand out ahead of somebody else that's really actually making a difference at the command with just a few things that they're doing.
Exactly. The impact is huge. You could have, 20 divisional collaterals. Cool. How are you helping the team, right? You're helping a very, very small unit. The team is the bigger picture. The team is the command, your peers, the Navy, Take on those challenging collaterals, but at the same time, make sure you can take on enough relaxation for yourself.
And the next big thing that I really wanted to kind of touch on is, especially those at the HN level, trying to pick up, it's very competitive. And a lot of times you run into this counterculture and this block of not having good buy-in from your peers. You haven't been in the Navy that long. You're trying to build yourself up. You don't have that established rank or leadership position or resume of being in the Navy that long behind you. what would you say to those sailors that are coming to you and having those issues, I'm setting up these events, but nobody's coming because they feel like I'm trying to put them on my brag sheet, and they feel like, of course, everyone's in competition with one another.
I mean, the main thing with that is that happens across all the ranks, E1 all the way up. And it's unfortunate, but there's not enough space on a package or a Block 43 for me to put your specific name. And what I mean by that is the events that we're leading, or if it's a volunteer event or whatever it may be, I don't have the time to write down each and every person's individual name in my Block 43 because I don't have the space. Same thing with my package. So with that, it's stop fighting each other and start working together. For example, if you just promoted and you were in a weird position where leading your peers is probably one of the most challenging things that you can ever have to do, especially if you just got promoted. But if you have a volunteer event, you guys got to see it from the bigger picture. You're not getting points for every individual sailor that you bring out there. You're getting points for the LOAs that you're getting, the volunteer hours that you're contributing, the impact of that. So just because one person organized and one person assisted doesn't mean one person, if anything, the person who assisted is getting more points because they're getting half a point for the LOA and half a point for volunteer. The only other person is getting leadership.
I think it's also important too because, you also might kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So because you didn't go to this person's event, now maybe you just took something off of your brag sheet that you could have used. So yes, that person set up X, Y, and Z event, but you went and performed at X, Y, and Z event. So if you went to a volunteer, that's volunteer hours that now you could put on your sheet for Blue Jacket, for MAP to be more competitive, but because you wanted to be spiteful and not try to help that person out, or you thought that they were your competition, now nobody wins.
Speaking of which, spitefulness, the military is too small. You're going to bump into somebody that you knew or somebody that you worked for or worked with or were in charge of. A perfect example, it happened to me at this command. And, somebody was my class leader, turns around, fast forward 3 years, now I'm their LPO. And it's just very funny how that all works out. And everybody needs to get on this page of, HM2 Rodriguez, he says it's the best. Bring the team up. And he really embodies that, and I think a lot of people really need to embody that. Is you need to bring the team up. We always hear training the replacements, but maybe it's time we start saying bring the team up, because at the end of the day, that team that you're bringing up is your replacement.
And I think it also helps breed more camaraderie, and you're much better together. And when whoever does pick up, that leadership unit will be tighter. When I was in HN and, I was competing with HNs on my deck, but we helped each other. When it was my first Blue Jacket board, they sent me their Blue Jacket material, said, yes, you're my competition, but I'm going to help you because if I'm going to win, I want to win knowing that I was the best, not because I held something from you. And then when I saw them going to school, I said, okay, let me help you get into school. Yes, that might give you more ammunition and more things for your package, but at the same time, I want you to be successful in life as well. So I want you to go to school. I want you to do these things. And I think, again, like you said, HM2 Rodriguez is very big on fostering that unity and that bring up the team. And at the end of the day, if you're doing that, that's what you should be doing.
Agreed. And that's the beautiful thing about this is, the teamwork aspect. But you kind of hit on another thing that alluded to this point that I try to make very clear to people is the tighter your team's going to be, is the more efficiently it's going to work. Additionally, you were just in the position where those HNs were now you're a third class. Who's the better advocate for those HNs? The HNs, or when you have to have those closed door conversations with another third class, second class, first class chief, whatever, it's going to be not seek that as the HNs complaining, but as you as their LPO or you as their leader will now be bringing legitimate concerns to the forefront. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns. So, and we say all this to say this. I know it's a big roundabout. We're going to bring it home. Don't try to fight your competition. Work with your competition. Because at the end of the day, Navy karma is very real. You will see these people again. And even if you don't see somebody, you'll know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So just at the end of the day, make sure you're all working together because, we all can eat. This table's big enough.
There you have it. And like HM1 said, I think it's really important to point out that this table really is big enough for everybody to eat at. And we hope that regardless of your rank or your rate, that you can all get something important from this series, regardless of what it may be, and that it helps you set yourself or maybe your junior sailors up for success as best as possible. Before we sign off on today's episode, I want to thank HM1 Moore once again for sitting down and taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about the Meritorious Advancement Program. Thank you also to all of you who are taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to not only this episode, but this series as a whole. Hopefully, throughout all of the content that we're going to be putting out, there's something that you can find and take away from it, because really, at the end of the day, the goal of all of this is to set everyone else up for success as best we can. And of course, last but not least, please stay tuned for the next episode, because we're going to start breaking down the Meritorious Advancement Program grading sheet, starting with the primary duty/job performance block. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all next time.